demographically, we're living longer than we've ever lived. So our elderly population is increasing in numbers. So I think that society as a whole really, really needs to understand this.
She was incredible. She was very strong, nurturing person. She was somebody that people could come to for all sorts of help, whether it be cooking or personal advice. She was a manager over several branches of Key Bank until she retired in 1996. So she was pretty well known in Fostoria and Findlay and Tiffin. She loved to garden. She sunburned every time she did it. She's allergic to everything outside, but she still did it every time, every spring, every fall. I grew up with my grandparents for the most part, so she was kind of like my mom.
They're very fun, had a lot of interest in doing things. They never wanted to just sit home, so they were very active, had a lot of friends. They were so independent, and they loved people, and they loved doing things that they really didn't let it limit them. I mean, even my dad, at the very end, it was so hard for him to go places. But I'd say, Dad, you want to go for a drive? Yeah, let's go.
She was a very intricate part of each of our lives, raising us even partially at her house before and after school. She was a huge influence on each one of us. She uses humor and fun to get through things, and family and relationships were important to her, and that was her top priority. And she made a point to make every event special.
She hosted every Christmas. We'd have Valentine's Day parties. We'd have, just everything there with the family. And
so not only was were we close to my grandma all growing up, but then my mom passes away, so she really ended up filling that void for us as well. And we already had a strong relationship with her as it was, but that really solidified that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Her progression started initially very subtle into dementia. By about 2000, we started to notice that balancing the checkbook, which being a branch manager was always, second nature to her, became a little bit harder for her to do. It took her a little longer. She got lost one time coming back from church and ended up in Tiffin, and then she got in a car accident. And that was within the first year of her official diagnosis of Alzheimer's.
I think a couple years ago she really started first showing the signs of dementia. She would really start repeating herself over and over again. She struggled with short-term memory. She couldn't tell me what she had to eat for breakfast, things like that.
We were having illnesses, and they were getting worse and worse. And Fran, with a job, couldn't run back and forth to Florida. And so she said, Mom, you're going to have to come home.
11 years ago, she was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis. It's a chronic progressive lung disease, and it doesn't get better. But and the only thing that helps it is oxygen, but it doesn't help it. It just helps her to be able to breathe. She would do all of the cooking. She did the laundry, not because I asked her to, but because she wanted to. She, helped with the house, and she would go out in the yard and rake with me and, do all of those things. And, each year it's gotten progressively harder for her to do that. It's tough. It's very tough to watch somebody you love decline.
It's awful. It really is. I have to depend on people, and it's no fun. Now Fran is stuck with me who is here all the time, and it's been a challenge. And she's just constantly helping me. So that draws her away from her job and makes it tough on her. A lot of times she has to work late to get a lot of the things done that she's supposed to do.
She was having a hard time remembering family members.
It wasn't just repeating things anymore. It was really having a hard time recalling who that person is, forgetting to take care of herself.
A lot of times we would show up when she was still in assisted living and her clothes would be on backwards, or they would be dirty because she didn't realize that they were, or that she had dropped food on them. And my grandma was always somebody who looked immaculate, beautiful. She always had suits on and high heels, and her hair got set every Friday. I think that was not from a vanity standpoint, but to see somebody who always took such pride in how she presented herself, to just be so disheveled and not even aware that that's how she was.
That's one thing for a caregiver who is paid in a facility to deal with, but it's a whole other level when that is your mom and she doesn't recognize you, and the roles have such drastically reversed to now she's like your child, and not only that, but she doesn't remember who you are. So it was difficult.
Alzheimer's affected my marriage for a while. It affected my family life. When you're so consumed with somebody else's health and well-being that you neglect your own. And if, for me, I knew that my husband was healthy and my kids were healthy, at least it didn't feel like they didn't need me as much as she did, even though there was very little I could do.
When you're taking care of someone, especially someone who is looking at end-of-life issues, it's just ongoing loss. And so you really have to find, as a caregiver, ways to not just cope with loss, but thrive in the midst of it and enjoy every minute you have.
This can last a very long time, and the changes that someone experiences can be incredibly difficult for them, incredibly difficult for everybody around them.
Well, I don't know that there's too many things that are more stressful than caregiving. And so to understand how you cope with stress and what to do is really the only way you're going to survive.
You have to have help, because if not, it just eats you alive, the same way it eats them alive.
The best thing you can do if you're a caregiver is figure out who's your support, where you get support from, what resources that you have that will help. Find out in the community who is going to help you, who is going to offer information that you don't have, and remember that you have to take care of yourself so that you can take care of the other person. If you're a caregiver, nobody says thank you enough. If you're a caregiver, nobody gives you enough of what you need. You have to find it. So what am I going to do to get exercise? Or what am I going to do to get that rest break that I need so badly so I can function the rest of the day? Or what do I do to eat healthy? How do I do those things so that I'm the best I can be to help them? It's stress management.
Eat well, exercise. That's so, so important.
One thing I know is I don't want to get old. Getting old isn't for sissies, I can tell you that.
To find resources for them, for you, for your family. There's so many resources now.
Just sometimes someone to talk to on the phone, to say, the individual in my life is changing, what do I do? They're not alone. We offer support groups in the areas we serve. We want people to understand that they're not alone, that there's somebody out here to help them. We can't change what's happening, but we can be there at their side and help them, identify services, people and places, just to be that partner in the community that they talk to.
In the midst of all the stuff that's hard, they have to have hope. whether it's that caregiving will end or that it will never end. You know, that's the guilt complex. Well, what if it doesn't end? And what if it does end? Either way, it's hard. How do I have hope in the midst of it? So that's my goal, is to be able to help people find hope in their lives.
Just before she passed, hospice came in, and they had been a part of helping care for her while she was in my aunt's home anyway over the last few months, but really ramped up towards the end there last week or two, and they were taking her over in an ambulance. And I wanted to call just to make sure that she made it there okay, because I was worried about that trip for her. Not anticipating that the nurse was then going to hold the phone up to her ear so I could say hello. And the nurse said, here, I'm gonna hold, she's here, she made it, I'm gonna hold the phone up to her ear so you can say hello. And all I said was, Grandma, and she said, Amy? And I was not anticipating for her to recognize my voice. I mean, she hasn't recognized, so much. And I said, yes, it's me. And she goes, Amy, I love you with all my heart. You haven't lost them until they take that last breath. And even still, depending on what people believe, they carry on. And they certainly carry on in their legacy.
It's wonderful. I don't know what I'd do. Right now, if I didn't have her, I would be in an assisted living establishment. So fortunately, I'm very lucky.
In our society, we watch people on screens and in stadiums, and we call those people heroes. But I get to talk every day to people who are doing caregiving that if they got up and they managed to get their hair washed and they showed up at work, they're heroes. And they're being heroes for the people that they love and they take care of.
You spend a lot of time trying to think about how can I help this person. And, you just, to be honest, the way I deal with it is I just get up every day and put one foot in front of the other. Take a lot of deep breaths, look to friends and family members for some assistance and support. I'm fortunate, my colleagues have been terrific. My team, my supervisors have been awesome. It's for me, I try to look at the positives. I'm lucky and I'm blessed for every day that I have my mom. So for me, that's the most important thing. I know when I'm just grateful.
I want people to understand this is somebody's parent, somebody's sister, somebody's, best friend that's going through this, and that if we can work harder and be more vocal and understand the mission, then we have an opportunity to change lives, not just create buildings and manage facilities.